Welcome to the Truth for Your 20s podcast. My name is Katie. I'm a proud girl mom. I've been married 20 years and counting. I'm a keynote speaker to sororities nationwide and a passion to be who I needed when I was younger.
And I'm Shayna Webb, proud big sister of 5 girls, Chattanooga content creator, high school coach, and your resident 20-something co-host who definitely doesn't have it all figured out yet, but loves talking about it anyway.
And together, we are here to bring a little truth, encouragement, real stories, and laughter to your 20s.
Woo! Guys, we made it through January.
Man, it's like the longest month of the year, isn't it?
I do think January is low-key the worst month of the year. And so we've made it. So it's only up from here. Because like at least in December, there's Christmas.
Right.
It's cold, but there's also Christmas.
Yes.
In January, it's just like end of holidays. The holidays are so far away and it's cold. And yeah.
And
so we made it.
We've had so many weather situations. And so it's like school's canceled, this is canceled. And it's like a never ending, what day is it?
Yeah. We're finally in February, which is amazing. And January is also just hard because I think there's so many times, like we set all these goals. And I mean, statistics, I don't have any statistics in front of me, but statistics, right, show that, you know, most people get rid of their goals after 2 weeks or whatever. And so our goals are like blah. And then you feel like you can't even start new goals because you already failed your New Year's goals. And then it's just sometimes the worst.
Yeah.
January can be tough. The January blues are over though, because it's February.
And we're going to talk about burnout because it's so real and it's so applicable right now. And it's something that we're hearing from you guys and it's just relatable. And you brought this topic up and I'm like, yes. And I don't think either of us are experts on this is how you avoid burnout because we're just pilgrims on this journey as well. And I think that that's the beauty of it. And we're just going to dive in.
Yeah, I do think we have both experienced burnout and we've both bounced back from it. So I think if we just share our stories on burnout and what works and what we've learned, I feel like I've learned so much by trying so many different things and getting burned out. And I feel like I've done a really good job with not getting burnt out of my current thing that I could be burnt out, which is social media and everything. So I just want to share a little bit about that. But also, guys, this is the first time we've ever done an episode with no notes because we burnt out of notes. We were burnt out of notes. So we're going to just freely talk. And so hopefully it works well. But if you guys are like, please get back to structure, then just comment and let us know.
Yes. But I love listening back and just, I don't know, you're just such a great co-host and talking all the things out. I feel like it's so fun.
You're so nice. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, okay. So I think a lot of times culture tells us that whenever you start feeling a burnout, you need to scale back and relax and rest and take a self-care month and quit your job. That's like what I think culture tells us when you're starting to feel a burnout. And I have listened to that and I've tried that a little bit, but something I think I've discovered about myself is I am a do things person. So I will say there's definitely like scientific research that shows that, you know, resting, obviously we talked about rest before. Rest is very important, but like quitting everything or just like cutting back things from your schedule, you know, rest, cortisol, whatever. There's science behind that. And that works for some people, but for some people, maybe it's the Enneagram 3s out there. I often get more energized because of things that I'm doing. So I was looking into this. And this lady was talking about how a lot of times we feel burnt out because we have low energy. And that's not necessarily because of a lack of sleep or not great nourishment or things like that, but it's because we're doing so many things that drain our energy and not enough things that give us energy. And so you can kind of think of for yourself in the example of different friends. So sometimes you hang out with people and they're so encouraging and they're just a light and they're so fun to be around. And you leave the hangout feeling so motivated and inspired and just like feeling fun. And then sometimes you go hang out with someone and it's like complaining and gossiping and you just feel drained and you feel like their energy has almost rubbed off on you. And you can also think about that in other ways. Like there are different things that you've done that are low energy or drain your energy versus give you energy. And so when we have too many things that are draining our energy and none of things that are giving us energy, that's when we feel low energy. And so sometimes there are low energy things we just have to do, like our jobs, sometimes jobs, but
getting the oil change, like all the just stuff that has to be done. Yeah.
Right. Low energy things. And so the lady was saying you should evaluate your life and see where you're draining energy things and see if you can rework it a little bit to see if you can, you know, not do all of the low energy, like the draining energy things all in the same day. Or if you do, give something that's going to boost your energy up that night or something like that. Does that make
No,
sense?
I love that, and I have done something I call, like, the day of doing hard things, so it kind of is the day of doing all the crap you don't wanna do, like we talked about, getting the oil change and I have a bunch of boxes I have to take to get recycled, making the appointment for the dentist, like, all that junk, but it's one day, and then while I'm at it, I'm gonna get my favorite iced coffee or, those little rewards, so
Mhm.
and then it's also all done, and you don't have those lingering things, like, hanging on your to-do list. But yeah, just another way of thinking about that.
When you feel low energy, I also think it's way easier to feel overwhelmed. And I've definitely felt that before when I have a whole day of doing things. And then I also have to go clean my house at night or something. Or just simple things like cleaning your kitchen can feel so overwhelming because you have so little energy at that point. And so I just think it's almost like a reconfiguring things to bring more into what brings you energy. And I've really liked how on Sundays I try not to look at my phone as much as possible. And it's not rest for me because when I'm resting, I just feel unproductive. But it's things like I recently went over to one of my friend's house who's having a baby and redid her pantry. And it was like 3 hours. And that was rest for me, even though I'm not laying on the couch or like watching a movie, just doing something and being like doing something that feels helpful. That gives me energy. Or a lot of times people like to volunteer or do community service. Things like that can be high energy giving things. And so, yeah, I think there's low energy things and high energy things. And I do want to say, obviously, you have to rest. And sometimes I think like I should, slow down and rest. And I do. I mean, I get 8 hours of sleep every night. I think that's great. So it's not almost like lay in your bed is the rest. It's the high energy and low energy things. And I hadn't heard that before until I did. And it helped me reconfigure my life a little bit and not feel pressure to do the rest that everybody's talking about, if that makes sense. Because I'm just someone who likes to do things.
I can so relate, and you'll you'll could totally relate to this. I teach a class at the gym, and we've done it for a while, and I kinda like, it was almost like a obligation. I was like losing steam or whatever. And we recently had a new group of people, which is just fun, like energy and stuff like that. And then, so what it is, it's low weights, high reps to the beat of music. And I just use music I like and it's fun. But we decided to do theme nights. And Shayna, tonight is going to be boy band theme night.
That is so fun.
But I talk about like something, the exact same thing that used to be like, now I'm so pumped about it, I can't stand it. So just reconfiguring or maybe taking the same thing and giving a different spin and then talk about like this gives me energy even though it is literally working out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So 100% agree with everything you're saying that yes, sometimes you need to take a nap, but sometimes you need to go to the gym and it just
Right.
depends on what gives you
Exactly.
energy. Yeah.
If you're feeling like blah and so burnt out from working or, you have kids or you have all of these responsibilities, you have to clean, you have to do all this stuff at work. Sometimes, yes, it is important to lay down and do nothing. But depending on the type of person you are, sometimes it might even be better to go to a Pilates class or
Yeah.
go on a hike or do actually something, a community service project, something that's bigger than yourself. Whatever it is for you, it looks different for everybody. I think that is so true. And I never thought about it like that. And I've even seen it so much in my own life. So recently, I took on a part time job, which sounds crazy because I felt like I was so busy. In 2025, I was fully freelance and I felt like every day was so much work. I was constantly behind, whatever. I was doing my own social media business. I was working weddings. I was coaching lacrosse. I was doing social media management, all of these different things. And it was constantly busy. And then I was, doing the reevaluate. Like, I can't keep living like this. I'm going to get burnt out of web chats, which is my social media platform. And I could feel burnout coming. I've experienced it before on TikTok when I used to post about wedding TikTok things. That's a whole nother lore.
Mm.
But basically, what happened is I posted every single day. I was all on top of it. I put so much time into it. And then I felt burnt out because I had posted for so long and I was getting results. It wasn't like I was flopping every video. This is not about social media, but just it was going well. I was doing it all the time and I still felt burnt out. It doesn't mean like only failures feel burnt. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say, oh, it was such a success, but I mean, it was successful, but I still felt burnt out. And so when I was entering web chats, I knew I didn't want to feel that burnout anymore. And I recognized the feeling when I started feeling it last year. And so you might think, pull back, like that is the solution. And I am going to pull back in certain areas, but I'm not going to pull back on all of it. So I basically was thinking, what are the energy drainers and what are the life givers? And to me, editing videos is life-giving. When I finish it, when I get to, when people say, oh my gosh, this helped me, or even just watching my own videos, I feel like that gives me life and I really enjoy it. And I love seeing the finished product. But I also noticed there were a lot of videos I did last year that were partnership videos and you can relate this to anything, not just social media. Think about, any kind of hobby you have. If you're lucky enough to work in your hobby, so whatever that is, I don't need to list. I mean, like
Yeah.
you love dogs, you work with dogs. You love kids, you work with kids. Obviously, like there's a lot of jobs out there. Hopefully you get to do something that you love. But a lot of times you can feel burnt out from the thing that you love, right? And so I was thinking, where in my job is the energy draining come from? And I realized a lot of it is these partnership posts. So times that I am working with a business, which is the dream, right? To get paid to post videos. That's what I was doing. And you get to work with them. And then it's like, I'm trying to work in their edits and doing all these different things. And I do think that I do well at it, but I also notice it drains my energy a little bit more because I am not being fully me whatever. Anyway, I
Mhm.
digress. But I love just posting whatever. And so I've decided to scale back a little bit on partnership posts, and I'm still posting pretty frequently on web chats and everything. It's just I'm doing less of the energy draining type posts and doing more of just easy posts for me that I really enjoy doing that are easy for me to do. And so it's still an energy giver. So that's just an example of reconfiguring when you feel drained, where can you pull back without letting it fully burn out and crash and you quit it all? Because that's what I did with TikTok is I posted every day for 2 years and then fully quit for 3 months because I was burnt out. And then it's so hard to get back into it.
Yeah.
Same with working out. Like you can work out all the time and then you just burn out and you don't work out for 3 months. And then it's so much harder to get back into it. So in the workout example, where could you reconfigure your workouts so you don't feel as burnt out? Is it a different time of day that you go? Is it a different like actual Pilates versus doing cardio? Whatever it is, see what you can reconfigure.
It's definitely coming to
Hopefully
my
that
boy
makes
class tonight. That's what it's
yeah.
no, that's so relatable. And honestly, this podcast is a perfect example
Hmm.
because I was doing it solo, posting all the time. I was a one man show, one woman show, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
and all the behind the scenes, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, forget it. And so going from posting every day for like 3, 4, I don't know, lots of years to just ghosting. And then thankfully, meeting you and like and now it has life and now I'm excited. Now I love doing it. But it's just so many things. It just has to sometimes be repackaged or there's so many different ways to look
Right.
at this. And it depends on what it is and what's going on in your life. But yeah, just looking at it from different lenses.
I think what you need to think about is what do you enjoy doing? Sometimes it is your job. For a lot of us, we are so thankful to get to do what we love. Hopefully that is for you or will be one day. But even if you're doing what you love, you're going to feel that burnout sometimes. So you have to think, what is it about my job that I love and how can I lean more into that? And just
Yeah.
like you said with your podcast, like now it's something you really look forward to. You just have to come at it in a different reconfiguration. And so, you know how sometimes you feel in your soul, like a warm, fuzzy feeling
Yeah.
when you're doing something.
Yeah.
So leaning into that. So for me, I was trying to think, when do I feel the warm, fuzzy feelings? Date nights with my husband is one of them. I was thankful that I was getting to do a lot of date nights, but I was constantly filming them or having to do them for partnerships. So how can I reconfigure it? That's just my example. Obviously, it looks different for everybody. I've heard from friends, just especially people in our 20s. I think a big one is community service or just like volunteering somewhere often gives you a sense of like, I'm helping and I can physically see the results. I think that could be really cool. And then that can also translate into different jobs. So for me, I was talking about how I just took a part time job. Really, obviously, Jesus gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling in my heart. And I was trying to think, how can I incorporate it more into media? Because that's what I do is social media and just communications, digital media, etc. And my pastor one day offered me a part-time job doing media for the church. And he was like, I'm not really sure why I know you're so busy. Then I was thinking, how could I reconfigure things that give me the warm, fuzzy feelings? And it's like, I go to church now and I get to do work for the church. And that is life-giving. Even though it adds to my schedule, it's not doing less. I'm truly doing more than I used to be doing, but I feel more energized. I feel better when I wake up. It also helps routine, which I could talk about routine for another whole 30 more minutes. But
Gives you purpose. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
and
huge.
and just gives you, it's reconfiguring what you like to do with what your job is because a lot of times you have to do low energy things. You have to have a job. Pretty much everybody has to have a job. Or you have kids, you have to take care of your kids, you have different things. a struggle in your family that you just can't ignore. If there's an issue, you have to deal with it. But it's reconfiguring it so it can still not be just draining energy all day, draining energy. Oh,
No, that's so good. And thinking about it on the other end of your 20s, and what you just said, work giving you purpose is so important. You look at elderly and people who have retired and stuff, they say that one of the quickest ways to not have longevity, to die quicker, is to not have purpose and to not have something to do. And so obviously when you retire, you may not be working anymore, but you need something to get up for in the morning and stuff. And my granddad lived
wait,
from
you said the other end of your 20s?
yeah, I was thinking
This
like
is
you're
us.
older. Yeah, like what elderly people is
Oh,
what I'm trying to
elder.
say.
Oh, when you're like 80.
Yeah. So like the point is like we're talking about right now, like what's my purpose and where do I, get involved? But that can look like a lot of different ways. But it's so important to have
Yeah.
purpose, to have
Yeah.
a reason to, like my mom, she makes costumes for the middle school play. Like it's just she's retired. She doesn't have to do it. She doesn't get paid for it, but it's just something that she loves to do. And my granddad worked till he was 93, and he went to work every single day until 2 weeks after he died. Now his work was,
2 weeks after he died.
sorry,
He's still working up there for the Lord, thou knows.
I mean, no big deal. 2 weeks after he died, 2 weeks before he died, but he would just go in and make coffee for the place and run errands and stuff like that. But I mean, it kept him going. It was a reason to
Yeah.
get up in the mornings.
And
Yeah,
I definitely think if you're in your 20s and you're thinking, how can I do something like that? Volunteering is probably the easiest one to find
yeah,
because, it's not paid necessarily, but it could lead into more paid things. Like a lot of times, it could lead to a nonprofit job or it could lead to coaching or something like that is just great. Just think, what do you like to do? What gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling? And how can I incorporate more of these energy givers
yeah,
into my life rather than the energy drainers? So I think a good exercise for anybody to do would like think about, your life as like a bar chart or something. And you have your energy drainers and your energy givers. And yeah.
no, that's great advice. When I do meetings with sororities, like I talk about, executive board, what's your responsibilities, and you list them out. And what in this list do you love, and what in this list makes you, and we don't always have freedom to pass this along, but that's good advice for whatever it is in your job. So you list out what it is you do every day.
Mm.
What, if you had a magic wand, could you outsource? And there's lots of ways online to do that. Like, you mentioned if you didn't like editing videos, if you didn't like, I don't know, there's so many different things depending on what your job is. There are ways to outsource some of that.
Yeah, you could outsource the cleaning of your house if
I
that's
mean,
really your
really,
biggest drainer.
really, like that we do that once a month is the best day of my month to have someone. And I always say I love my family more when I don't have to clean their toilets, like
Yeah,
it's
so
worth it. It's 100%
sometimes
worth it.
I mean, sometimes you would pay for it obviously, so you're like, I don't know if it's worth it, but it can be so worth it for peace of mind.
It really is. I think I mean, I would rather eat pork and beans and, go out to eat for a month and have someone to clean our toilets. Like it's the
Yeah.
best. So yeah, just what is important to you and what do you value? And that's just way to think about those things. Yeah. Should we share an unhinged burnout story so people will feel a little more relatable?
I mean, I definitely feel like my biggest burnout was doing TikTok. I was posting every single day. I was in the wedding niche. I was almost starting to not even like weddings anymore because I was just constantly talking about it and I felt like I was going to burn out. And so I really did burn out. Um like I said, I just totally quit cold turkey and stopped posting in general.
Yeah.
And I sometimes look back and I wish I didn't because I do still have that TikTok account and everything. And it has a bunch of followers on it. But anytime I post now, like it's just a lot. Like once you're out of it for
Yeah.
social media, sometimes you can't get it back up without like really putting in a lot of time and effort into it. And so I know that now as someone who works in social media with my web chats account, like I'm going to keep it going and everything, but I don't want to burn out this time. And so I feel like I've done a good job at protecting myself from burnout.
That's
But
true.
I know you have a really unhinged burnout story.
We were talking about this before we hit record. Yeah. And I alluded to this a little bit in my testimony, but it's just, I think it's relatable to doing what you're designed to do versus not. And I learned that through a fun little burnout story. But so my husband was a youth pastor when we first got married, and it just seemed like the youth pastor's wife should do fill in the blank. To me, be a service or anyway, in this particular instance, I was saving the homeless people in my town.
Hmm.
How cute. Seems like the great pastor's wife thing to do is save the homeless people, right? And I genuinely just became friends with this girl not too much younger than me. She had two young kids. and she was in a rough situation. She was living in her car, and no, she didn't even have a car. She was living in a hotel, and she was actually before that living in a crack house. And so I was just like, okay, girl, we're going to help you out. And so, like, all hands on deck, I had called friends who owned a car dealership. We helped her get a car that she could afford. We helped her get an apartment. We helped her get a job. We had a housewarming party for her, dishes and stuff for her kids. And it was this whole thing. And she was a give me a success story. And my husband helps her do finances and like all of this stuff. And she got baptized at our church and wonderful, yay. Until I realized that she didn't want the life. I wanted a better life for her than she wanted for herself. And started like staying up late and partying and, having all these random people in her apartment, and her kids weren't showing up for school. She wasn't showing up for work, and all the pieces were falling apart for this beautiful life that I thought we'd built. And I was like having this total meltdown. Like, talk about an unhinged. Hopefully someone on the other side of this earbuds can relate to this, but like in my walk-in closet, like I had this sweater and I'm like throwing it out on the ground, like, God, can't you see how hard we were? And what a good Christian I am, which oxymoron, I get it. But like, look at all the good things. And how could you let this fall apart? How could you let this? And then, if ever I'd heard the voice of God, it was in that moment. And he was like, when did I ask you to do any of this? Share your story with sorority women. That's what I've designed you to do. And so it was like such a eye-opening moment for me, because good things doesn't mean it's your thing. And so, doing
Yeah.
homeless ministry is great, good, and wonderful. And there's amazing people designed for that, but that wasn't what I was designed to do. And so that was my total unhinged burnout story that is hopefully relatable, that maybe you were doing something that is good, but it's totally sucking the life out of you. Listen, there are mission fields on Greek Row. There are mission fields and homelessness. There are mission fields all over the place. And so it might look different, and that's okay. It should look different.
Yeah.
That's where, bloom where you're planted. So
But that's such a good example of how you can burn out from doing good or things that you feel called to. You can still burn out of that. And there's ministry burnout, creative burnout, social burnout, service burnout, all of these things. And loving your job or loving your ministry doesn't mean it doesn't cost you energy. So
yeah,
that's really where it comes into adding the life-giving activities. And we're taught how to time manage sometimes, but we're not necessarily taught about how to energy manage. And so that's where that comes in, is you just got to balance it.
yeah, word. Yeah.
So yeah, and boundaries don't have to be about doing less, but just doing things better, if that makes sense. It doesn't always mean you have to do less if you're feeling burnt out, is what I'm trying to say. So sometimes it means doing more, just more of the energy giving things, finding those people that give you energy, finding those places or spaces or people.
Yeah, and I think another hack is just looking back on your life and like, is there a season when you felt totally like, yes, this is where I'm supposed to be, or this is for sure. And then maybe there are steps you can take to get back in a small group or with these people or with those people, or more or less of some things that you love in your schedule. So
Right.
creating the life you love, as they say.
Exactly. A lot of times you also just need to learn how to recognize burnout. Like I feel like I knew last year I was really close to burning out of doing web chats and just quitting it all and not posting ever again. But I was able to recognize it because I had been through it before. And so I think maybe we could talk about how you feel when you start feeling burnout. Come on. I think I would often find myself where I would have things I knew I needed to do, but instead of doing them, I would decide to do literally anything else, like something that so didn't matter, like reorganizing my closet
Yes, that's
instead
real.
of doing the thing that I knew I needed to do, or playing some silly iPhone game for 30 minutes, or what I would get on Webkins. That's how I knew I was about to burn out, is because I opened back up Webkins rather than doing the things that I knew I needed to do. So just feeling, and again, there's a line between like you're just enjoying and doing things for fun, or you're seriously putting things off during the time you've allotted to do them because you are feeling close to burnout. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
No, I mean, that's good. And there's probably different triggers for different people. But I mean, are you dreading like what you said, cleaning? If you find yourself cleaning the baseboards when you have a really busy to-do list.
Yeah. Then there's something, then you're edging toward burnout.
Yes.
But it's almost like rest obviously looks different for different people, but rest doesn't have to be unproductive, if that makes sense. So yes, you can still clean your baseboards as your rest time, but not during your to do these other things time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Oh, and shame, I do feel like drains your energy faster than anything else. So, I would, for example, play Webkins or whatever it is, rather than, okay, also when I'm saying play Webkins, you guys, I'm just, that sounds so crazy, but there are some good games on there anyway. But it's the example of like, Webkins obviously is not a huge distractor. Like you could also say like doom scrolling or whatever, that's like actually dopamine, whatever. Could digress into that. But it's like I would do this rather than doing the work that I needed to do because it was like a burnout feeling. And I would then feel ashamed. I would feel mad at myself for wasting 30 minutes doing something. And now I feel rushed and I have to get this done and blah, 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 blah. And so that's when it's like you need to scale back. If you're starting to feel like ashamed, I think
Yeah.
also is a sign of burnout.
No, that's good. And I will say, if you like, okay, this is good information. I think that for sure, like that might be me. Maybe a hard reset or just drawing a line in the sand, if you will, getting a massage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And self
Let me
care,
just throw
obviously,
that out there.
yeah, self care obviously looks different
Yeah.
for everybody. And so, yes, I also think yeah, massages were amazing.
Yeah. So we just, as you said, we had an amazing partner with Dandel Spa, and
Hmm.
I've never ever had a better massage in my entire life, and it unlocked all of the good things. And it was
Hmm.
like every stressful thing I've ever felt, she was like kneading all that junk out. I mean, it's for real. And there's biblical stuff about, healthy and just like meaningful touch. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff to unpack there. And I'm a fan. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm a believer.
Yeah. So that, I mean, that's some productive rest right there rather
Yes.
than 2 hours of laying around, 30-minute massage.
Preach.
And then you
Yes.
still have an hour and a half to get other things done
There
because you
you
feel
go.
all recharged. But also like doing your
Yeah.
skincare routine or, a warm shower with good products that you like, which again, and I'm not trying to be salesy. I'm literally just saying like we
Yes.
did just experience that. So that's why we're talking about it because we got
It's
to
legit.
use the good products at Dandel and everything. And they do ship them worldwide, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, at least nationwide. I
Yeah.
shouldn't quote worldwide, but
I
at
don't
least
know, but it
nationwide.
really is something that you can do in your home. You have this nice lotion and this nice oil, and taking that 10 minutes before bed and treating yourself and like
Yeah.
washing the day off. And
It's
there's,
regulating. Doing things regulates you.
it's a
I
thing.
really do think that. And
Yeah.
also routine. I
Yeah.
could talk forever about how routine, even in just the last 2 weeks, has regulated me so much. It's been great.
Do you have a bedtime routine? Putting you on the spot. I'm just curious.
Ideally, I would not look at my phone for an hour before I go to bed. Now, how often does that happen? Almost 0% of the time. But
Just
I think
curious.
a shower and then after I shower is usually when I try to not look at my phone anymore. And ideally, I don't want to go to bed with soaking wet hair. So I usually like to have like at least 30 minutes after I shower before I go to bed. And so whether it's journaling at the end of the day, that was a really, really good routine I did all through college and like in my early 20s, or reading a book. More recently, it's just been like talking with my husband about my day or playing with our dog at the end of the night to get him tired out. And sometimes we do watch like a TV show or movie after I shower. It's not looking at your phone. So I think
Yeah.
it's a little bit different because it will just end rather than like constantly scrolling. And there's always more things you can do on your phone rather than a show or a movie. So yeah, that's my current routine at night. And then in the morning, I think I've talked about it on the podcast before, but not looking at my phone in the morning until after I've done my devotional or taken out my dog or whatever it is. So it's
No,
been good.
that's nice. Yeah, I do it like the skincare stuff because it really is magical, and just washing off
Oh
your
yeah.
own. Well, yeah. That's,
Yeah.
I don't have anything too fancy though.
Yeah. But we did get the Dandel skincare, which has been awesome.
That's all I do. I don't do anything fancy, but yeah, it is just
Yeah.
yes, magical.
Which thank you, Dandel, so much for partnering with us on our podcast. It's so cool to have a partner,
I know, right?
like we said last episode. But if you are interested in seeing any of their products, you can use code Truth20 to get 20% off any of their products. But we did not just think of this episode because of the skincare and the rest routine.
No.
We literally thought of it because we have both been just so busy, and you can feel the burnout. Or we're busy, and I have been saying to people like I am very busy this week, has been so back to back to back, but it's life-giving because I'm doing things that are filling my energy high, and my energy drainers have been kind of cut back a lot.
Yeah.
And so I don't have as many things draining my energy. So yes, I'm doing things constantly, but it's life-giving things. And so that's where it's like the low energy, I just feel more energy, even though I'm doing more things because
Yeah.
they're life-giving things. Hopefully that makes sense.
It does, and something that's really helped me in the stress of things I have to do and the, interruptions, like the annoying stuff, right? Instead of looking at it that way, looking at it as opportunities, and so shifting from interruptions to opportunities, and it's silly and subtle, but it's changing my life when it just comes to, you know, I used to be so frustrated by interruptions, and now I'm like, "Okay, what is this opportunity? What is opening up?" And so that's what came to my mind when we talked about this episode because I loved, it will give to burnout and it will get me stressed out and frustrated when I'm constantly like blaming all these interruptions instead of looking at them as opportunities. So
Yeah. And so I think just to close the episode, I mean, I would leave you with the question, what's one thing you can remove or add to your week next week or this week or whenever you're listening to it? But I mean, when you start feeling a burnout or if you are currently burnt out and you're listening to this, it doesn't mean you need to do a whole life overhaul or
yeah,
reset. It can just be simple tweaks. I would definitely start with journaling and listing out what gives you energy versus what drains you energy. Obviously, there's nobody who lives with things that don't drain any of their energy
right.
because everybody, every job or every family, everything, there's energy drainers, but just adding to things that also give you energy.
Preach. Yes.
So,
Hopefully that was helpful, guys. This is something that was a topic that's, burning on our thoughts and minds today. So hopefully that helps you guys in dealing with burnout. That's what we're here to do.
yeah. And if you listened this far, then you're a real one. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about next time. We're on social media at Truth for your 20s. 20s is how we spell the 20s. But we'd love to chat with you over there. Thanks again, especially if you listened all the way to the end.
We love you guys. Thank you.
Bye. Good. I feel like I rambled a ton, but